Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9 FM. I'm Paul Kretschmer. Today we're going to be speaking with a ministry leader named Nina Roesner about how to reduce stress at the holiday time, Christmas time, and New Year's, and also communication between mates in marriage. That's next on the WIHS Journal.
Well, I think we do this to ourselves. And you look at the social media accounts, you look at Instagram and Facebook, and oh my word, stay off of Pinterest. Everything is so magical and perfect. And I know for myself, I used to make probably 30 different kinds of cookies when my kids were little, and I did that because that's what my mom did. But she was the wife of a business owner, and that's what he gave all of his customers. So I just had this warped sense of what you do, and it was great for them, but didn't fit right with our family situation. And so we've minimized every single year, done less and less and less, and had more and more memories created with family, which is even better than all the stuff.
I think I have a similar story to that sort of thing. My mother worked full-time outside the home, 5 and for a number of years, another half a day on Saturday in a doctor's office. And so she would say when she got home on Saturday and it was time to clean the house, she'd round us 3 boys up and say, get going, here's what you do, here's what you do, here's what you do. And that was pretty standard from one week to the next. But if we weren't working hard enough or fast enough, she'd look at us with a bit of exasperation on her face and say, I work all week, and then I come home and I get to work some more. In contrast, her mother only worked outside the home during the 4 years that my mother's brother was in college, and my grandmother did a little work outside the home for extra income to help David with his tuition and books and all that stuff. But otherwise, she was a homemaker. And so her home was always in stark Better Homes and Gardens contrast to the one my mother kept, which was one where everyone was fully occupied, including herself, all week long.
Yeah, a lot of chaos, a lot of stress. And as Americans, we buy too many things, and we think we need too many things, and then we don't have place to store them. And they're not the things that we need or really even want, especially when January hits and we get the credit card bills. So
yeah, well, that's something else I'm not doing these days. I'm not using my credit card, which certainly helps the balance, that's for sure. If it's as close to zero as possible, then I'm happy. It sounds like you've made some choices as you've gone along. You mentioned that you've done less and less from year to year. How did you determine what was, beyond the simple point that, of course, Jesus is the reason for the season, obviously, from that point, then how did you determine what you could live without and the memories would be better from what you chose to retain?
Yeah, so I think it was probably there were 2 things. I ended up with a disability, and I don't have a lot of stamina in my wrists. I have a chronic tendonitis issue and bad arthritis. So you can't make a lot of cookies doing that. So I had to scale back, and that was probably 15 years ago where that started getting really bad. But things kind of came to a head about 5 years ago, and my husband had open heart surgery. And he had it actually 5 years ago today, and we were gone, and the kids were here. They're all adults right now, but 5 years ago, I had people in high school, and my oldest son and his girlfriend, and they were engaged, and it's like, okay, what are we doing? And I just said, do what you can do. It'll be enough. And I had people staying with the kids and all of that, and we brought him back from the hospital, and it was enough. I mean, I had this image in my head that they were going on this magic tree hunt, this wonderful hot chocolate, cold weather, snow, lovely experience. And they went to Walmart and they bought an LED tree with the money I gave them to buy.
Hey, I've used something like that myself for years, and I have no apology for it either.
Yeah, well, and it was absolutely perfect because I didn't have to water the tree every day. I wasn't thinking about the tree. There weren't the needles to be, and we got these dogs, and they're, banging in the tree. And, we just didn't have that year. And I went, wow, they made 3 different kinds of cookies. And you know what? Nobody complained. It was all more than enough.
Was the time that all of your family members spent together much more precious because of that, rather than all the hoopla?
I think so. And one of the things that we're going to do this year is my daughter. Just a couple of days ago, she's a senior in high school. She's 18. She's picking out the photo for the senior slideshow, and what was going to take 20 minutes took like 3 hours because we just got lost looking at all these photos from her childhood and just all this stuff. And we were laughing, and it was so much fun. And I went in and I was like, we need to do this. And Jim's like, yeah, I tried to get you guys to do this last year. And I'm like, well, I'm sold. You're right. Let's do this. So we're gonna just do a slideshow over Christmas and just sit around and play cards and watch that and just enjoy each other.
Yeah. What do apology, empathy, and forgiveness have to do with love when it comes to marriage? You mentioned that you've got 12 truths to change your marriage. I'm not going to ask you to enumerate in copious detail all 12, but maybe we could hit the high spot on maybe 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, so when you live with somebody for an extended period of time, whether you're married to them or whether they're your child, we inadvertently take our stress out on these people, not on purpose. We don't mean to most of the time, but our life comes out sideways when we don't deal with our own stress, and so we hurt people. And the ability to be able to apologize to somebody for hurting their feelings, it solves. It's just balm to a wound, and being able to quickly forgive. And the only way that we can do that sometimes is to remember how deeply we've been forgiven by what Christ did for us. And, when you look at, well, how do those things fit into a relationship? Well, those two and empathy, if you don't have those ingredients in your relationship, you really don't have much of a relationship, because people are going to hurt each other, and you have to heal from that, and you have to forgive from that, and you have to understand each other. And when you don't have that, you don't have much of a relationship at all.
It occurs to me as you say that what God seeks is relationship, personal relationship with each of us. Mm-hmm. And it seems like every time I do something stupid or something that I try to take a shortcut on an issue instead of following the book, I imagine the Father looking and saying, "Oh, Paul, if you'd only done what I'd called on you to do, instead of trying to do it yourself, you would be so much further ahead, and you wouldn't have the grief that you're going through right now."
Right. Yeah, we cause so many of our own problems, man. Oh man, that's the thing.
How do couples break the cycle of negative communication? I've known some couples in places, including churches, where it seems like the husband and the wife never really, I never see them in a positive light. Everything seems to be nitpick or snappy comeback that sounds clever on the surface, but it is bound to be hurtful underneath. I remember visiting my own parents a few years ago, and my parents started talking to each other in a way that was familiar, but if anything, maybe even a little more acidic than I remembered from my own childhood. And I commented on it, and they both looked at me and said, "Oh, we don't mean anything by it." But I can only imagine that because they engaged in it, they did mean something by it. Either that, or it was such an ingrained routine of theirs that they somehow had lost the means to communicate in any other way.
Well, and that may be true. And there are some couples that have a volatile style of communication, and that works for them. And there's others that have an avoidant style of communication when it comes to conflict, and that works for them. But you get somebody that is one or the other, and you put them together, there's a recipe for difficulty because things don't get worked out. And nobody's going to be perfect at it. But I think the key ingredient is recognizing our extreme depravity without Jesus Christ. Just the heart of man is, there's a line that goes down the middle of each person's heart, and there's the good that God created of himself that's in us, but boy, the heart of man is also really evil, and we are capable of the most wicked, nasty things as human beings. And not being aware of that and not taking responsibility for our own we're culpable in all of our interactions, regardless of what the situations are. I mean, even if somebody's beating somebody else, somebody's staying and enabling that. And so, we have to look at, what am I responsible for? How can I behave? What kind of spouse do I want to be? And stay focused on that and do that for God. Hopefully things sort themselves out. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they don't. And it's just difficult.
Yeah. You write that choosing submission doesn't make you a doormat. Can you explain that? Because some people have a really hard time getting past that point.
Yeah. So there's two types of submission in the Bible. There's the submission we do to God, which is, we choose to follow Him, we choose to obey Him. Mm-hmm. And there's the submission that women choose to do with their husbands. I guess there's military submission and leadership submission too. So, but it's positional, based on authority usually. Mm-hmm. But the thing is when you look at the marriage scriptures about that to women, that communication is directed to women, meaning you need to approach your husband in a gentle and kind and open to dialogue type of way. And it doesn't mean that you're going to blindly obey him as if he's God, because he's not. He makes probably a really good man, but he's a terrible God. And there's examples of women doing exactly the wrong thing in the Bible because their old husband told them to, and he killed them both. God did. So, so blind obedience. In Acts 5:29 says, we obey God, not man. And so I don't think that doesn't apply to women. I think we need to obey our husbands in the Lord, meaning when they're following Jesus, we obey them. We submit to their authority, and we understand them. And I love how I have a friend who's a blogger, and she says, when two people in a marriage don't agree, somebody's not listening to the Lord, because He's all about unity. So we put a lot of weight into those words, but really it's, am I open to this person? Are we having respectful dialogue? And sometimes we are and sometimes we're not, but that's what we're called to do. And, that's what we should be doing. And, boy, I wish I was perfect at it, but I'm not.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
If a person's in the midst of being a doormat, could it be described perhaps as a form of passive aggressiveness? Because I've known some people in my life that I've encountered at various times. It seems like they go for a long time just kind of soaking it up. But then at some point, something triggers and it explodes like the volcano down in New Zealand.
Yeah, we're not wired to stuff things. They usually come out sideways. So when we lie and betray ourselves, we lie to the other person, I'm fine. Yeah, sure you are. We're just basically delaying when that's going to come out. And so, the inability to express an emotion in a healthy way and talk through, hey, it really hurt me when, you said this in front of the kids, and, and the other person going, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. That was out of line, below the belt. I should not have done that. I'm so sorry that I did that. And then that opens the door for, what's going on? You haven't seemed like yourself all evening. Well, you won't believe what happened to me at work today. It was just awful. And, so then you have intimacy and connection.
Yeah.
But when people refuse to own what's on their side of the street, you're in this sparring match, and then you realize, okay, I'm not safe with this person, and I can tell them my truth, but my truth isn't going to go anywhere, but this is a one-sided relationship. And, all the studies show us that, all the research says that successful relationships are reciprocal. So both people give and both people receive, and it's an equitable exchange that's beneficial to both people. For sure.
Thank you very much for the time that you've graciously offered to me at this time of the day, Nina. It's been really nice talking to you.
Same here, Paul, and I hope things go wildly well for you.
Thank you, and the same at you, ma'am. You've been listening to a conversation with Nina Roesner, ministry leader and author, here on the WIHS Journal. For further information, call us at 860-346-1049. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of this station. I'm Paul Kretschmer on the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from WIHS, Middletown.